Hey guys, it's Pastor Brian, and today I want to do a special teaching that's an add-on to what we just shared in the service on friendship with a little help from my friend. So I'm going to talk about one of the top areas that really struggles to defeat, and Satan uses actually to destroy and to defeat our family, our friends, and sometimes even our whole fellowship with the church. And so I want to talk about this issue on gossip. Now, I'm going to cover quite a bit of ground, and so I would encourage your group to do what my group does, and that is call out at any time and say, pause, and tell the person who has the remote control in their hand to pause it and discuss something if it comes up inside your mind. So let's start with a definition. What is gossip? Let me give you a few definitions. Now, the dictionary defines gossip as casual or unconstrained conversation or reports about other people, typically involving details that are not confirmed as being true. So that's quite a mouthful. Let me give you a few more. Gossip is not every time I talk about another person. I've seen some people that they don't understand the difference. It's not always gossip. Gossip has to do with what I often will discuss as gossip is when I'm discussing personal issues about other people in which I am neither part of the problem nor part of the solution. I'm talking about issues about their lives that I am not involved in. I just want to pass it on. Let me give you the Macedonian definition I gave years ago. Is gossip is talking about personal content with a malicious intent. Talking about personal content, that's other people's lives and issues, with malicious intent. I don't have any good reason to do this. Well, so if it's all bad, why do we do it? Why is gossip so prevalent, and why is it so stinking fun to do? Well, let me give you a few thoughts on that one. First, gossip makes us think and feel important. Gossip is kind of like a drug dealer. We're peddling stuff that is oh so good going in, but does so much bad in the end. Proverbs 18 says, the words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down into our very innermost parts. The words of a gossip. It's like drugs, and it always leaves you wanting more. And so we're peddling this drug. Second thing about gossip, why we do it, is because it shifts the focus away from ourselves. I shared in the message today that everyone is insecure. Well, one of the ways that we deal with insecurity and deflect is that we deflect by talking about someone else. And so it is a cheap attempt to try to feel like I got the goods on somebody else and you won't look at me. I like to say it this way: gossips are the pitiful attempting to be the powerful. We're using personal words about someone else to try to tear them down to build ourselves up. Proverbs 17 says, evil people relish malicious conversation, and the ears of liars literally itch for dirty gossip. Well, gossip is a great test of your own heart. When you begin to gossip, listen, gossip is when your conversation becomes an indication of your consecration. When you begin gossiping a lot, it tells more about you than it really tells about the person that you're sharing on. So if you like to share dirt, it often is just revealing the filth in your own heart. Here's the third reason we love to gossip. We use it as a passive-aggressive weapon. Gossip is really the coward's favorite weapon. It's guerrilla warfare. It's when I'm angry at you and I want to get back at you. And so I do assassination by fabrication. I'm talking about you behind your back, trying to tear you down because it's in my twisted way. It's a way of getting even with you. It's getting back at you. And by the way, it doesn't even have to be true in order for us to use this. Any little rumor will do. Now, it's not unique just to us. Even the Apostle John, in his third letter, said this in 3 John 9:10. He said, Diotrephes, that's one of the leaders, he says he likes to be number one. And he doesn't pay any attention to us, that is the original disciples. And it says this, so when I come, I will remind him of how he's been attacking us with gossip. So it's not unique. And you don't have to be a bad person. We're all attacked in this way. So sin is what drives gossip. It tries to build ourselves up. We feel important. It shifts the focus away from me, deflects, and it attacks our enemies with words. Now, when gossip goes down, it also creates a lot of collateral damage that goes along with it. Three things specifically that I want to share. First, gossip actually damages your reputation. I know we think when we deal in gossip, we're damaging someone else, but the truth is, when we begin to gossip, it actually backfires and ricochets onto ourselves and our own reputation. Proverbs 20, verse 19 says, "Don't tell your secrets to a gossip unless you want them to then broadcast it to the world." What's it saying? He's saying, we all know who the gossips are. Did you see what he just said? He said, don't tell it to a gossip. Why? Because we know who they are. In other words, it's damaging your reputation when you spread malicious gossip. We think gossip will make us more popular because we got the goods on someone and ooh, we want to share that. But it actually tears down our trust factor. It makes us untrustworthy. I shared this in a message. Whoever gossips to you will also gossip about you. And no one really trusts a gossip. Here's the second thing. It damages our reputation. But number two, it divides friendships. Proverbs 16 says, "A troublemaker plants seeds of strife, and gossip will separate even the very best of friends." Now notice that word, separates. Here's what happened. Gossip always creates relational distancing. Think about it like this. When somebody shares something negative or bad about another person with you, and then you go away and you see that person, what happens? Well, you now can't unknow that. And so what happens is attitudinally, it changes how you see them, how you feel about them, and often how you even respond to them. Gossip creates relational distancing. It pushes us away. It damages, it divides, and third, it destroys. It destroys unity, which is the power and fabric of relationships and even of a church. Perhaps one of the worst ways that Satan tries to destroy churches is with the tool of gossip. In Proverbs 6, verses 16 through 19, he actually writes of 6 different ways or 6 different things that the Bible says that God hates. It doesn't say God just doesn't care for or God wishes we would. It actually hates. Now listen, when you combine the word hate with the most powerful being in the universe, that's a pretty strong statement. And number 6 on God's list of hate, things that he hates, is a person who sows discord within a family. A person who says God hates a person who sows discord in a family. When someone is maliciously stirring up trash and stirring up gossip and creating a sense of anger or mistrust or feelings about that. Listen, if they're talking trash about church leaders, if they're speaking against the mission or the vision of this church, they're creating an us and them environment. That kind of gossip is the most malicious, the most destructive, and the most Satan-inspired. It's ripped apart more churches than bad doctrine or incompetent leadership combined. Now listen. Sometimes we feel like we're just sharing little innocent tidbits. You know, we're in a small group, and I just want to share. Oh, did you guys hear? And I just want to share this. And we kind of couch this. Even in a form of a prayer request. But those things often are just seedbed for gossip. So when you begin to see gossip and gossip occurs, how do you become a chain breaker rather than a chain maker? Ephesians 5 says this, "Though some tongues just love the taste of gossip, those who follow Jesus have better uses for language than that." Did you hear that? So he says, if you're a Christ follower, you're a kind of person who not only hates gossip, but you do something about gossip. Can I just tell you, when someone is gossiping, saying nothing is doing something. When you say nothing and gossip is going on around you, then you are actually doing something. What are you doing? You're encouraging them to continue in the habit of gossiping. Dear friend, gossip has to be stopped. And so how do we do that? How do we become a chain breaker and stop gossip? Well, let me just give you the first one. The first one is you must personally commit to be someone who's trustworthy themselves. You must make a personal commitment that says, I don't want to be that kind of a person. Proverbs 11:13 says, a gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy person is someone who can keep a secret. Make the commitment in your own heart, in your own mind, I'm going to be a person of trust. So the first way you do that in a small group is to take confidentiality serious. We often say in our groups, what's said in a group stays in the group. And that means that people ought to be able to be inside of a group and trust that what's being said in here is something that we can have in confidence. So to handle with care means you will not share. So commit to be a person of trust. Here's step 2. Practice biblical reconciliation. Practice biblical reconciliation. That means, listen, the first step is how you handle your own baggage. That is, that I'm going to be a person of trust. But the second step is, what do you do when someone has offended you? Well, Proverbs 25 says this, when you and someone else can't get along, do not gossip. When you're having problems and difficulties with another person, commit yourself not to gossip. Don't talk about them unless you're willing to talk with them. Do not talk about them unless you're going to talk with them. So what do you do when I've been wounded or I've been offended? There's 2 things that you need to do immediately. Vent vertically, that is, go to God in prayer and say, God, this is hurting, this made me mad, this made me angry, this is an issue, I want to deal with this. But then, after I vent vertically, dialogue directly, not indirectly, talk with the person, not about the person. Here's the third step to being a chain breaker. Know the difference between a prayer request and a gossip fest. Know the difference between just a prayer request. Oh, did you guys hear about poor Susie? Blah, 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 blah. And you're just sharing it like it's a prayer request. Don't do that. We had a guy in our small group when Lisa and I were in Tulsa. And guys, every single week we ever went to group, he would come in, and as soon as they said, do we have prayer requests? As soon as they said that, he'd go, oh my gosh, did you guys hear about Billy? Oh man, Billy's having this problem, and Billy's having that problem, blah, 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 blah. And he was constantly gossiping. Well, don't be that. Shut that down. Listen, small group can be a place of great confidentiality, but it can also become a place that breeds incredible discontent. And when someone starts venting in your group about another person, it's up to you to begin to say, I've got to do something about that, particularly if they're bad-mouthing the leadership of the church. In fact, Ecclesiastes says this. Listen, Ecclesiastes says, do not badmouth your leaders, not even under your breath. Loose talk has a way of getting picked up and spread around, and little birds drop the crumbs of your gossip far and wide. I've had people sometimes will say, Pastor Brian, I just need to confess. I said something about you and I just didn't come to you. Can I just tell you, I already heard it. You'd be amazed how much people like to spread these little morsels. So don't allow in your group. You say, well, what do I do if somebody actually begins to do it? Number 4, you must confront and redirect. You must confront and redirect. Leviticus 19 says this, verse 16, do not spread gossip and rumors. Now, when it says spread, that means someone has to stop it. Someone has to make the decision, this goes no further. Edmund Burke once said, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. So when you hear gossip, it's up to you. It's up to you. When you hear it, listen, you can either spread it or you can shred it. And the Bible says you are the one who has to do so. So what do I do when somebody starts gossiping? 1, you shut it down immediately. You shut it down. Titus 3 says this, if people are causing division, give them first and then a second warning, and then after that, have nothing to do with them. Have nothing. Now, when somebody first gossips, they may not be aware of what's happening. So don't be a legalistic jerk. There's good ways and bad ways to handle this. So here's one thing you might say. You might say, I'm not completely comfortable with this conversation. Help them to see that this conversation and where it's heading is not helpful. If they don't respond to that, maybe you could ask this question. You say, hey, I wonder how Bill would feel about you sharing this. I wonder, so when you're gossiping, use some cues to help shut it down. And then second, don't just shut it down, turn it around. Turn it around. Proverbs 26:20 says, wherever there is no fuel, a fire will go out. And where there's no gossip, arguments will finally come to an end. That is, when a person is continuing to gossip, you just look at them and ask them this straight face. Just say, have you spoken to that person about it? Because if you haven't talked to them about it, don't talk to me about it. Push back immediately. Somebody said this, flattery is saying to someone's face what you wouldn't say behind their back. But gossip is saying behind their back what you wouldn't say to their face. Let me say that again. Flattery is saying to their face what you wouldn't really say behind their back. But gossip is saying behind their back what you probably wouldn't say to their face. So it's up to you. Will you be a gossip chain breaker or a chain maker? I hope in your group that this has been helpful to you. And I hope also you take a few minutes, talk about the issue of gossip. Because, dear friend, we all struggle with the issue of gossip. And all of us are still learning. So have some grace, be nice, but help one another not to gossip. God bless you. Have a great time in your small group together. I'll see you next time.